Some people will do anything for money. But could it push a society doctor to murder 4 wives?
I want you to arrest a man called Clements.
Arrest him for what?
Murder.
Or tempt a desperate daughter to kill for cash and risk the life of her unborn child?
What have you done?
Edward Woodward reveals 2 murder mysteries where money called the shots. A Tuesday night turn of the screw at 9 on Central.
Who are you?
I'm your lieutenant.
If he's in, he's got rights. That's how it works. I want him out of here!
The movie premiere of Pacific Heights after the news.
Good evening. The news and sport from ITN. Tonight's headlines. Downing Street's fury at reports of another back-to-basics row. Israel may give up the Golan Heights to Syria.
And the main sports headline, Wales sweeps Scotland aside at the start of the 5 Nations Championship.
John Major's at the centre of more controversy tonight over reports that he launched a fierce attack on right-wing ministers. At a private party for journalists, the Prime Minister is said to have talked about crucifying the right for the way they've handled the back-to-basics row. Downing Street denounced the reports as scurrilous and malicious.
It was at a Downing Street party 2 days ago that the Prime Minister is alleged to have said that he would crucify the right for hijacking the back-to-basics issue. But one cabinet member present vehemently denied the story.
I was at the dinner. I heard no such remarks. The Prime Minister says he made no such remarks. As I understand it, nobody's been able to find anybody who was at the dinner who heard such remarks. It is just absurd.
And after right-winger Michael Portillo admitted his speech on back-to-basics last night was provocative, colleagues from the other wing of the party were playing down differences.
It's about time people recognise that we are talking with one voice and that we all very strongly support the Prime Minister's call for back-to-basic conservative common sense.
Tonight, Wandsworth Council confirmed the district auditor was looking into allegations of gerrymandering there, as found at Westminster Council, but said it had been cleared after 6 previous inquiries. As to the auditor's report on Westminster Council, Dame Shirley Porter, in California, promised a fight.
I completely refute all his allegations. I'm ready to fight the good fight. I shall clear my name, and we have done nothing wrong, nothing illegal, and I'm sure that the court will find in our favour.
Right.
As newspapers continued the search for scandal, Tory backbencher Theresa Gorman furiously denied a Daily Mirror report. It said she'd made money after buying this house from Westminster Council. She said it had been bought privately.
It is a scandalous story run by a sleazy newspaper to try to denigrate the Conservative Party and myself.
Downing Street has made strenuous efforts to deny the Prime Minister attacked his cabinet colleagues. But some on the right of the party feel the story has a ring of truth and point to the robust remarks he made about them just a few months ago. Now ministers are bracing themselves for more Tory scandals promised by the press over the next few days. Jackie Ashley, ITN, Downing Street.
An Israeli cabinet minister has said Israel may have to give up the Golan Heights to achieve peace with Syria. The remarks by the Environment Minister Yossi Sarid come on the eve of a meeting in Geneva between Syria's President Assad and President Clinton. It's hoped the meeting will help break the deadlock in the Middle East peace talks.
The final leg of his European tour, and President Clinton has left behind the problems of NATO and Eastern Europe to try and make progress on the Middle East. He landed in Geneva to hear that a senior Israeli cabinet minister has said that his country should be prepared to hand over the strategically important Golan Heights in return for a full peace deal with Syria. The Golan Heights have been occupied by Israel since the war of 1967. There will be no peace between the two countries until Syria gets them back. For several months, Damascus and Jerusalem have been fencing diplomatically about just how much Israel might get in return. Hence the excitement about President Assad of Syria's decision to come to Geneva earlier this afternoon to talk to the Americans. A feeling that it's a move he wouldn't have made unless he had something to offer. And why would Clinton have agreed to meet a leader whose country is still accused by the US of supporting terrorism unless he saw a chance of significant progress? UN Secretary General Boutros Ghali is also in Geneva for meetings with Assad. He too will be urging the Syrians to get back round the Middle East conference table. There is a danger of being too optimistic about tomorrow's meeting. The Israeli-Syrian dispute is a particularly difficult one to crack. But the whole Middle Eastern peace process could well do with a boost at this stage. James Mates, ITN, Geneva.
The IRA was warned tonight that the Downing Street Declaration would become extinct by the end of the month if violence continued. The warning from the Ulster Unionist leader James Molyneux followed today's firebomb attacks by the IRA on shops in Northern Ireland.
While politicians wait to see what verdict the Republican movement gives to the Downing Street Declaration, the IRA's campaign continues. Once again, it was Northern Ireland's business community that was targeted in a series of firebomb attacks on shops and commercial property in and around Belfast. In the aftermath, shopkeepers assessed the damage to their businesses. One blaze completely gutted this furniture store, destroying the entire stock. Another family business left in ruins. From the Ulster Unionists, a warning. The declaration had till the end of the month to get results. If the violence hadn't stopped by then, it was finished. Criticism also of the Irish government.
They have broken ranks with John Major on the final position that there must be enduring proof that terrorism has really ended before either government would consider the opening of exploratory talks in due course.
For nationalists, an acceptance of Mr. Molyneux's position, but the peace process was still on track.
I can understand that it's a certain frustration. Also, he has people within his own party, and of course he has the DUP breathing down his neck, so I feel perhaps that's why he said what he said. But I believe that the peace process is very, very much still alive.
While there's a growing belief within government circles that the IRA have no intention of halting their campaign of violence, the war of words looks set to continue when members of Sinn Féin give their version of events concerning government and IRA contacts at a press conference in London on Monday. Mark Lyons, ITN, Belfast.
Heavy rains threatening the safety of 6 people who've refused to leave their homes on the edge of a cliff hit by a major landslip. They've ignored several pleas to leave the site despite the danger of dropping over the 200-foot cliffs on the Isle of Wight.
That's right. Yeah. MP Barry Field seeing what the ravages of nature have done to his Isle of Wight constituency. 500,000 tons of earth and rock is still on the move at the Black Gang Chine beauty spot. 2 homes have already fallen victim to the landslide, and it's feared that more will follow.
It's definitely one of the biggest landslips the island's seen, probably this century, I would think. And sadly, I don't think the movement's finished yet.
Council engineers are keeping a constant check on how much the earth is moving. Huge cracks are still appearing, and warnings are out that the whole area is unstable and potentially dangerous. This is the landslip that's cut off the tiny community on the cliff face at South View. And despite warnings from council officials and a geologist, they still say they're determined to stay put. There are now just 6 people here practicing their own brand of defiant back-to-basics existence.
The councilman came down and he just gave us this and just advised us that we should go. This is our own and we'd just like to stare at it. They don't understand us. We know the land, you know. We know whether it's falling. We're not stupid enough to stay here and fall into the sea.
10 miles of coastline is now affected by landslides. At Totland Bay on the western end of the island, another family have been forced to abandon their clifftop home. But next door, an elderly lady has so far refused to be frightened away by the elements. Nigel Burwood, ITN, on the Isle of Wight.
A leading probation service spokesman tonight defended the policy of sending criminals on expensive foreign holidays. Michael Ward from the Association of Chief Officers of Probation said critics had ignored proof that such schemes worked.
The Bryn Melyn Centre in North Wales sparked the controversy over the use of foreign trips, like this one, as therapy for offenders. Last year there was outrage when it sent a teenager on a £7,000 safari in Africa, only to find he was arrested 3 days after his return. In the latest case, this woman, Tina White, was sent on a French sailing trip while awaiting trial for killing her daughter. 3-year-old Leanne had 107 injuries when she died. Her mother's been jailed for 10 years for manslaughter. To help White face her trial, probation officers took her on a character-building cruise at a cost of around £1,200. Probation services say more trips like this are to come.
Services are experimenting with this kind of training trip, sea trip, as part of their task of assessing offenders, of finding out what they're really like, getting alongside them, so that we can advise the court really well.
Charities usually foot the bill. Many probation services use the Duke of Edinburgh award scheme for outward bound breaks. The probation service says it's not a holiday, but very hard work, and argues most offenders don't break the law when they return.
The singer-songwriter Harry Nilsson has died at his home in Los Angeles a year after suffering a heart attack. He was 52. Nilsson was best known for the theme to the film Midnight Cowboy and the hit 1970s single Without You. Now, with today's sport, Graham Miller.
The opening games in Rugby Union's Five Nations Championship ended with wins for Wales and France. At a rain-swept Arms Park in Cardiff, Wales ran in 3 tries in a comprehensive 29-6 victory over Scotland.
In a match prematurely labelled as this season's wooden spoon contest, the desire to prove a point overcame both sides as early as the second minute, an ugly punch-up involving both packs. The game calmed down with more Welsh pressure than Scottish, with the back line getting to grips with the appalling weather conditions and putting together some flowing moves. That pressure paid off after the interval, with the backs running the Scottish defence ragged to set up a try for substitute Mike Rare. Scotland's disappointment continued, the French referee disallowing what appeared to be a perfectly legitimate drop goal. Wales put the result beyond doubt with a second try from Rare, which is virtually a carbon copy of his first. And in the final moments, skipper Ian Evans completed a memorable victory for his side and a great comeback for Welsh rugby after last November's humiliation at the Arms Park at the hands of Canada.
France launched the defence of their Five Nations trophy with an emphatic 35-15 points victory over Ireland. It's now 22 years since the Irish last won in Paris.
No one gave the Irish much chance in Paris today. It's 13 years since they last scored a try there, but in the opening stages they did at least cause 1 or 2 scares. It wasn't until the half-hour mark that the French began to stamp some authority on the game, Benetton scoring the first try. Eric Elwood's prolific right boot kept the Irish in contention. They trailed by just 4 points at the break, but within 10 minutes of the restart the French had scored again, Galtier doing the spade work, Lacroix going over on the blind side. Ireland kept the scoreline respectable for most of the match, but they were punished by 2 French tries in the final 3 minutes, the first by Philippe Saint-André. France had taken a long time to show the flair that won them the Five Nations last year, but when Mill went over in the last seconds, there were signs that France were once again back in business.
Manchester United maintain their grip on the Premiership here in England with their 10th away win of the season at Tottenham. Mark Hughes got the only goal. It was Spurs' 4th consecutive home defeat. 2 goals from Alan Shearer keep Blackburn involved after a bad-tempered game at Bramall Lane, and a hat-trick from Tony Cottee christened Mike Walker's management at Goodison Park. United now have 61 points, still 13 clear of Blackburn, who have those 2 games in hand. Liverpool climbed to 6th with victory at Oldham. They're now unbeaten in 9 games. In the First Division, the leaders Crystal Palace suffered a second defeat at Wolves in a week after losing their last Saturday in the FA Cup. Wolves took the lead with a first-half penalty after Steve Bull was chopped down by Eric Young. The spot kick was driven home by Andy Thompson. And Bull was there again near the end to set up Kevin Keane. Wolves' 5th win in a row, Palace's 3rd defeat. Millwall took full advantage at the New Den against Bolton. Alex Ray keeping up their promotion hopes with the only goal of the game in the second half. Millwall are now level on points with Palace, who've played 1 game less, but Tranmere and Charlton, who play at Leicester, could take over top spot with wins tomorrow. In Scotland, bottom of the table Dundee were on the verge of an upset against the leaders Rangers, until Gordon Durie snatched a last-ditch equaliser 4 minutes from time. So Rangers still a point clear from Aberdeen, whose match at St Johnstone was postponed. Hibernian move up to 3rd. England's cricket squad has arrived in Antigua at the start of a 3.5-month tour of the West Indies. The bookies have England at 10-1 against winning the Test series. But the touring party, led by new skipper Mike Atherton, left Gatwick this morning in confident mood.
Most people travelling to the West Indies today will have been contemplating a relaxing holiday. For the England players, nothing could have been further from their minds. With the most feared fast bowlers in world cricket waiting for them, the luggage contained plenty of spare helmets and thigh pads. The Caribbean is always a daunting destination. However, there's a distinct mood of optimism about this tour.
You don't fear anything, really. You try and back your own strengths. But certainly we'll be aware of their strengths without being fearful of them.
But the last time England won a test series in the West Indies against a side led by Sir Gary Sobers was in 1968, coincidentally the same week in which the current England captain was born. Today's cricketers have been sent a goodwill message from the England rugby team, who hope their recent victory over New Zealand can inspire a win over the best in the cricketing world. If they are to be victorious, they'll need determination, luck, and with a barrage of short-pitch deliveries in prospect, no small amount of courage. Everyone knows the Caribbean is no easy ride.
But little joy today for England's A team in South Africa. They're struggling in their four-day game against Orange Free State. The home side were bowled out for 370 in their first innings. England collapsed to 180 all out and could face only their second defeat of the tour.
That's all from ITN this evening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, good evening, and straight away let's deal with the weather for the moment to hand. And here we see troublesome showers in the south attached to this front, wintry ones in the north, and cold night in prospect with clear skies for the bulk of the country in between. Now this is the way our Met Office rainfall sequence sees those showers working out during the night. Wintry ones there in the north, one or two just skirting eastern parts, and then slowly edging away for southern counties, with a back edge in fact turning to sleet or snow. And look at these temperatures. This is the sort of thing we can expect. -5 in Scotland, just held above freezing here in the south. So as we go into our Sunday morning, we see a sort of arc effect with these wintry showers from Northern Ireland stretching all the way to Scotland and spilling down eastern fringes, certainly snow in the Highlands. The very best of the sunshine tomorrow reserved for southern and central England, Wales, northwestern England, southwestern Scotland, and even some sheltered parts of Northern Ireland. Though during the course of the afternoon, one or two of these will just filter inland, and we could well see a wintry shower showing up in East Anglia, for instance. So, in a word, it's a cold day. Temperatures held at 2 to 4, 36 to 39 Fahrenheit. Wrap up warm. Good night.
Central Weather, sponsored by Legal & General.
Good evening. Well, after a cloudy start to the night with some showery rain, that'll all be clearing away southwards, but be warned it could turn to sleet or snow later on as it does so. Thereafter, it'll get rather frosty in the far north with lows down to around freezing, and then tomorrow, mostly dry, bright day, the best of the sun in the west, but the risk of some wintry showers in the east here and feeling rather cold in the breeze. That's it for today. See you tomorrow.
Who are you?
I'm your lieutenant.
If he's in, he's got rights. That's how it works.
The movie premiere of Pacific Heights, next.